Hi folks, I'm in a bit of a mug marathon here, and I thought I'd share with you a handling technique I use. These pots have all been trimmed or skimmed on the bottom. All the bases are finished, and they're soft leather hard at this point. So I've got to get handles onto them. Now, because I'm making so many mugs at the same time, I sort of make a board of mugs, or 2 boards of mugs, skim them, get their handles on, make another 2 more boards. And I do that until I have enough mugs. One of the ways to cut down time on each handle is typically we pull a blank piece of clay and then we take that blank and stick it on and re-pull it. A lot of potters do it that way. I do also on a shorter run of pots that need handles. But when I'm doing this many, the time-consuming step for me is pulling all the blanks. So instead of pulling them, I extrude them. And I don't think that's cheating. I think it's, as long as I'm not losing the quality of the handle I'm looking for to go on the mugs, I think extruding the blank and then attaching and pulling again is okay. I use an old Brent extruder, which I'll show you in a minute. It's a beast. I've had it for 37 years, I think. And I make my own dies. Now, over here are the dies that I'm using pretty consistently on different pots. The shapes and sizes of the dies change as the pots change. I might use this for a casserole lug or side handle, this for a larger pitcher form, but my mugs are usually made and handled with these 2 dies. Now I make them by drilling some holes in 1/4 inch thick masonite, and then I use a series of rat tail files and crescent files and smooth everything and get the shape I want. So let's go over to the extruder and just pull a few blanks and I'll show you that step. The first thing I do is set up the die in the extruder, and it's fairly typical. A stiff rubber washer goes in first. Now I don't cut my dies round to fit this thing because I want more support than masonite can give, so I double it up. Actually what I do is this, so you can see that's what's going to be coming through the die. Now the clay I use to extrude the handles, the blanks, is just barely slightly softer than the clay that I throw the pots with. So I'm just always looking for softer clay rather than stiff clay. I put a second die on top so I don't get any overflow as I extrude. And now I'm going to make a whole series of blanks, and this is just pretty repetitious. Now the grooves down the middle that you're seeing here get softened up a little bit by my thumb tip as I'm pulling after attaching to the mug. And usually I get 3 to 4 pieces out of one of these. My pup choked. Huh. They don't have to be identical in length, because my mugs vary in sizes a little bit. Okay, that's a start. Let's go over and get some of them put onto the pots. Okay, time to get these handles put on the mugs. Notice something, I don't stand at a table when I attach handles. I sit at my wheel. I'm often doing this hour after hour, and I'd rather be comfortable sitting down. I work off of a clean banding wheel, and I've elevated things a little bit. My mug I want to work right in front of me with my water near at hand, my sponge here, my chop is there. Everything's right in a very small area. It means my hands aren't moving a big distance to gather tools or to do the work. So first thing is pull the mug up, and I want to mention something. The length of these blanks is roughly the same height, or the length is the same as the height of the mugs on average. They vary just a little bit. Now my mugs are a stiff leather hard, and what I'm looking for, and I'm going to describe something that freaks some people out sometimes, other potters, is I don't slip and score when I attach two things. I know my clay well enough to get away with it. Most clays, you can get away with it doing what I'm about to do. I just dampen the area where I'm going to attach the mug, or attach the handle to the mug, and then I want this surface to be wetted also. So I first of all triangulate it just a little bit and fatten it up just a little bit. Dip it in water. Now you can see maybe how shiny it is. That's not ready to put on to the mug. It's got to become slightly matte, and then it gets really sticky. Likewise, this liquid I put here has sunk in, and that's kind of sticky too. So I've created a glue, so to speak. So I press it on. Now I kind of sculpt it on. I don't smear my handles tightly to the surface. I don't mind showing the attachment. So notice again, my hands are really clean. I am not working with wet, sticky hands. If that happens, I stop the process, clean my hands up, and go at it again. So that's an attachment, and it's fairly tight. If when you start pulling, your handle comes off of the mug, pulls itself away, it means you haven't got enough stickiness going on. So get that matte surface of wetness showing before you stick the handle onto the cup. And here's another thing. I don't dip my hand in water. I dip the clay into the water. And it keeps my hand rather clean. And there's actually very little water involved here. And it's quite clean. Keeps everything clean, rather. Now here's a little tip. If I want my if I want my handle to go up and down, I'm going to pull it with the mug tilted. If I want it to come straight out the mug, straight away, like this one, I'm going to hold the mug horizontally. If I want the handle to leave the mug in a downward curve, I'm going to pull it like this and then attach the bottom, if that makes sense. I'm going to make sure it's across the middle of the mug. And I'm going to put a slight fishtail here. Just stretch that clay out. A little bit of water. Now I keep a towel across my lap to keep my hands clean. I don't want any sharp edges on anything. Now, I'm never afraid to go back in and reshape that handle. And I usually do it from the opposite side so I can see what shape is happening here. Pull it up a little bit. And here's a little move that I find really improves the spring, visual spring of the handle. And that is I'm taking my fingertip and I'm sliding it on the inside of the mug to create that little bump there. Do it again on this side. I don't spend a whole lot of time on each handle. I'd rather get a rhythm going, add my chop. First one's almost done. Now, something I've been doing for a long time, when I'm holding this mug, I'm actually squeezing it a bit and it goes into a slight oval. I want to put it back into round. You can make a rounder yourself. I find if I glaze them, rather than leave them bisque fired, they slide a little bit easier on the surface of the leather hard clay. So put it back into round. And there's mug number one. Let's do a second one and I won't talk so much this time. Now this one I'm bringing downward a little bit, so I'm tilting the base of my mug downward. Now there's lots of different endings you can use here. Often a fishtail is the one I use, but I also will take a dowel and rock it back and forth. Get kind of a nice clean ending there. And my chop. So I reckon that my handle making should be about the same time spent as I spent making the mug, throwing the mug. I just continue on. Now I did mention something about using white clays like a B-mix type clay, and cracking can happen. I've experienced that. So I do a couple of things differently. One is I do score a little bit and I use a toothbrush instead of a metal tool. But I get this toothbrush kind of wet with clay. Score the piece. And score the piece. Now imagine this is white clay, B-mix. And then I attach the handle. But instead of using water for the attachment, I use this stuff everybody's talked about in the past called magic water. And what is magic water? It's a mixture of soda ash, sodium silicate, and water. And what we're creating is a deflocculant, which pulls all the particles of the handle and the mug in line. And so you get a much tighter bond. There's more science to it than that, but that's the basic. And here's that recipe. Next step is to get these dry and into a bisco. Now, a lot of people will cover for days their handled work. I don't. I might, if I'm using white clay, I might cover them loosely rather than tuck them in with thin plastic over the top. But I also reboard these mugs with the handles inward, like that. That keeps the airflow a little bit less, excuse me, that keeps the airflow away from those handles a little bit more than if they're sticking outward. That's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, folks.